Hello and welcome back to the Old Soul Millennial channel. In today's video, I plan to add some modifications to this BILT HARD 6.5 ton electric log splitter. Before I talk about those modifications though, I kind of want to compare this BILT HARD 6.5 ton electric log splitter to this WEN 6.5 ton electric log splitter. I've had the WEN for about 2.5 years now and it's been a fantastic unit. However, the hydraulic components are definitely starting to get a little bit worn. I put about 20 cords of wood through this unit and it still works just fine. However, the motor on startup, it definitely sounds like it's starting to get a little bit worn out, which is understandable after 20 cords. Now, the BILT HARD unit has a few things going for it that the WEN does not, and I want to talk about those right now. So, item number one, there is this holding washer on both of these units. Here's the one on the BILT HARD, and here's the one on the WEN. On the WEN unit, I've had serious slippage issues with those holding nuts, or holding washer. I'll call it a holding washer, I guess. So the purpose of the holding washer is so that if you are splitting a 16-inch piece of wood, you can extend the piston out to maybe 17 inches, crank down on that holding washer, that holding nut, and that will prevent the ram from retracting back all the way. So you can set the ram to 17 inches, so that way if you're cutting or splitting 16-inch pieces, you're only waiting like a half a second before that wedge engages with the piece of wood you plan to split. So that is a tremendous time saver. On the WEN unit, major slippage issues. On the BILT HARD unit, the handle seems to be superior and I have not had any slippage on that holding washer yet. Time will tell, but BILT HARD definitely seems to be superior in that aspect. Now here's the other major thing that I really like about the BILT HARD over the WEN. Take a look at the base of the WEN. There's really only 3 points of contact on the ground. I can't tell you how many times I've lowered a big round of wood onto the WEN and it tips over. And I had to rush over to the other side, try and hold it up, stand on the back to prevent it from tipping over. It's just not as good as 4 points of contact on the ground. Now if we go over here to the BILT HARD, look at this front crossbar on the main vertical support. This is a tremendous improvement for stability. And I think I know this is just much more stable over the 3 points of contact on the ground that the WEN has. So BILT HARD definitely has that going for it. The only thing that I really have disliked about the BILT HARD unit thus far is manufacturing cleanliness. Because when I unboxed and assembled this unit in my previous video, there were a lot of little metal BBs near the hydraulic unit. If you haven't seen that video, definitely check out my previous video. Now let's get on to modifications. What do I plan to do to this unit? Well, really two things. For one, I need to add some type of splitting table. I plan to split about 10 cords a year with this unit. And you can use this unit right out of the box, of course, but the rails that are included on this unit are only about 3 inches and they're pitched up slightly. But the thing is, if you're splitting 10-inch rounds all day, chances are both halves of that round, once you split it, are going to fall right on the ground. And who wants to bend over and pick those pieces up? So if you integrate some type of splitting table onto this unit, it's going to save you a lot of time, make it a lot more enjoyable. Now the second modification I plan to do to this unit is add some type of trailer hitch. The thing with both these units, they both have really small wheels and they just suck to move around on grassy or on paved soft surfaces. So if I can engineer some type of trailer hitch welded onto that main vertical support so I can attach to my mower and safely move this around the yard, that would be a major improvement. So now let's remove this table off the WEN unit, and I'm going to start by removing this cotter pin down here. So in order to mount that table on the BILT HARD splitter, I'm going to actually use some studs. Now these are the studs I took off the WEN splitter, however, they're a bit chewed up, so I'm going to make some new studs. I don't have any threaded rod, however I do have some bolts. We're just going to cut the head off the bolts and we'll have some studs. By the way, M6x1 if you have the same splitter. So a little tip here, if you ever need to make your own stud out of a bolt or a piece of threaded rod, get yourself a file and the end that you cut with your hacksaw, hit it with a file on like a 45-degree angle, especially where there's some sharp metal. Just kind of round it off. So that way you have no problems threading your nut on your stud. I suppose I could use Loctite, but I haven't had a problem with these studs backing off in the past, so. Alright, let's try mounting the table. I'm still going to have to weld a nut onto that bottom frame cross member at some point, but let's see if the holes line up from the WEN unit onto this unit. And they're off slightly. So I'm going to have to modify this, unfortunately. Ah, bummer. It's close, but no cigar. Alright, so I just finished some welding modifications to the table. So these are the old mounting holes to the right. As opposed to filling those in with weld and re-drilling them, I actually added tabs, welded on new tabs to the left of the original mounting holes, and that allowed me to shift the table over slightly, and I think it's going to work out fine. Another thing I did, I added a piece of angle on this side of the table to make it stronger. However, on the end where the wedge is, I left no angle there. That way we still have a little bit of flexation in the table. So, let's flip it over, see if it'll go on the studs. That looks good so far. Let me put the bolts on the bottom and we'll see how she looks. Alright, so I just finished up with the modifications to this unit, and I am really pleased with how everything came out. Of course, we're going to have to thoroughly test everything, but we can always adjust things as time goes on. So first, let's start with the main splitting table, which of course I carried over from the WEN, but I added a couple improvements. Earlier on you saw I added a little bit more angle. Additionally, the rails that came included on this machine, I decided to utilize one of those rails and create kind of a curb, a guard, to prevent pieces from falling off the edge of my table, which seems to happen from time to time. We'll see how well this works out, but this is just bolted on here. As for the dimensions of the main steel table itself, 33 inches by about 13.5 inches. What else can I say? I have a piece of aluminum right here because the other rail that was included on the machine only went to about here. So by adding this piece of aluminum, I've extended the table a little bit closer to the wedge. I feel like that's going to be beneficial. Time will tell. I was actually thinking about making a table or a shelf rather, coming out about 6 inches off the machine. But this is the motor operation button. And yes, you can defeat it, but I like to keep it operational. But anyway, I thought if I brought this table, this shelf on the operator's side of the splitter out too far, kind of interfere with the controls on the motor. And I like to be able to get close because sometimes you get a piece that kind of jams in here and you gotta pull it apart. So this is, again, just a piece of aluminum angle, 2-inch, and I mounted this utilizing the nuts that were welded into the main member and cast into the end cap here. Now, another really cool feature about this unit is the trailer hitch. So let me lower the camera down and show you how that works, because I'm really proud of how this trailer hitch came out. So let's talk about this hitch. Now, initially I was just going to weld the hitch onto this main cross member right here, but I got to thinking I definitely don't want this sticking out because that's something for me to trip over and hit my shins, and additionally the edge is kind of sharp. So I knew I wanted something removable or something that could flip out of the way. Initially I was just going to put like a big old door hinge right here so the hitch could just flip up, but it wasn't really going to work because this is only like, I don't know, 1.25 inch square tubing or whatever it is. So many years ago I was into farriery, trimming horse hoofs, horseshoeing, and I actually made a homemade hoof stand. And because I haven't been doing it in many years, I decided to cut that apart a few years back and put it underneath the welding table. But this is a homemade hoof stand in essence. It's a piece of probably 3/4 inch rod, grinded 4 sides down flat, so it could slide in and out of this 1-inch square stock. Also welded on a nut. There's a bolt, a little wing. So, you know, originally this was vertical, but this allows you to tighten up that 3/4 inch rod and lock it into position. So I decided to position that horizontally so I could slide the hitch in and out. And then, of course, when I want to hook up to the mower, just tighten up this bolt right here. And there's enough friction on that right now as to where it will not slide in and out when you're towing it. Now the next problem I faced was, even when this retracts back all the way, it still sticks out about 4 inches, and I didn't want that. So my solution was to weld on a piece of 2-inch long 1-inch square stock. So when I'm not utilizing the hitch and I have the splitter stationary, just slide this out, put it in a little holder right there, and now it is up and out of the way, and it's not going to hit your shins. So now when you want to connect to the mower, take your hitch out, slide it down 1-inch tube, tighten up the bolt, lift it up, slide it over to the hitch on the mower, line your pin, and you're good to go.